Mark Rogers TV with you just a few seconds after Penn State pulled off the win at the gun over Central Florida. Sam Ficken splitting the pipes 26-24. And so Penn State and Central Florida for a second consecutive season, this time in Dublin, Ireland, play a game that goes right down to the wire. The Knights won it at State College last year 35-31, but this time it was Penn State winning 26-24 in James Franklin's debut at State College. Penn State wins over Central Florida. Big game for Penn State, James Franklin, and the Big Ten. And for Sam Ficken, the much-maligned kicker for the Nittany Lions. Just 15 of 23 last year. Has missed many late-game field goals. Has made several late-game field goals, to give him credit. But it's been positive and negative for Sam Ficken. It's been dicey. It's been up and down and inconsistent. But he hits this one in a huge way for Penn State at the gun, 26-24. Let's start with Penn State. Let's look at Christian Hackenberg's day. Here are the stats. 32 of 47, 454 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Yeah, especially one of the picks was really poorly thrown, bad decision. But Christian Hackenberg, for as good as he was as a freshman, 20 touchdowns, 10 picks, and remarkable for him to play with a talent disparity against the better teams on the schedule last season at Penn State, and to perform as he did against really good competition. He's even better this season. You can see why this guy will be one day quarterback, and most likely a starting quarterback in the National Football League. He made all the throws. He can make all the throws. He can move. He can move in the pocket. He got gimped up a little bit, but still made some plays. Again, on the move many times, because the Penn State offensive line is troubled and is an issue at this point. And that's really what stood out to me, is that early in the game, despite Hackenberg making the throw downfield to DaSean Hamilton for 44 yards and Penn State jumping up 7-0 in the first quarter, Central Florida looked like a more sound football team. They looked like a stronger and faster football team. Central Florida dominated both lines of scrimmage. Early in the game, Penn State couldn't run it. They tried to run wide several times, slow developing plays. And this was not the way to attack Central Florida's defense, because they were just too fast and too quick. With 10 starters back from a decent defense in 2013 that may be much improved in 2014, because if it's not for Hackenberg and a sophisticated passing offense, Penn State doesn't win this game against Central Florida. The Knights are very talented on defense. Not a superior elite defense, but a very good defense. And again, 10 starters coming back from last season, and they dominated the first quarter up front. Penn State got the roughing the kicker penalty on the punt, and then they hit the big pass play to DaSean Hamilton. Again, the story on this kid is that he hurt his wrist last year, didn't play the entire freshman season, is coming back here as a sophomore, had never caught a pass in a Penn State football game until that long pass was actually the second one he caught on the drive. Finished the day, 11 catches in his debut. DaeSean Hamilton, 165 yards. And again, that big play to get the passing game jump-started for Penn State. Also, a huge day for Geno Lewis, who caught the big play to set up Ficken on the final drive. So Penn State fighting the clock after Central Florida had scored with about $1:13 left, had 3 timeouts, kind of mismanaged the clock to a certain extent, not going to jump on James Franklin too much, but with only 27 seconds left to play, they saved all 3 timeouts. They should have used one, but anyway, Hackenberg on 3rd and short made a huge throw to Geno Lewis, who dragged defenders to the sidelines, didn't quite get out of bounds, but set up Ficken for a makeable field goal, and that really won the game on the final drive for Penn State. And again, it was the play of Hackenberg, not just in the pocket, but getting outside of the pocket, being flushed out of the pocket. And give credit to this makeshift Penn State offensive line. So I mentioned it, for the first several series, they were completely overmatched. Hackenberg was running for his life. He was pressured. He was hurried. Still made some throws. The rushing attack, non-existent for the entire day for Penn State, at least got something going later in the football game, at least to offset Hackenberg's passing and balance out the offense a tad, and at least give Central Florida something to think about. But early in the game, Penn State entirely overmatched. They've got 2 guards, the left and the starting right guard, who were defensive tackles last year, who have been moved because of the offensive line issues and the lack of depth, because of the probation, because of the scholarship reductions. issues along the offensive line in regards to depth and talent. They lost their best offensive lineman to a season-ending injury as well. So they've got 2 D tackles playing offensive guard at left and right guard starting at Penn State, and it showed in the first quarter, and it showed throughout the game. But they played better. They played better, and that's going to be a work in progress. Back to Geno Lewis. Caught 18, 234, 3 touchdowns last year. He's a redshirt sophomore. Caught 8 for 173. And again, he had an early drop on a 3rd down that was somewhat costly. But again, he comes back with some superior catches, makes the big catch that gets Ficken in field goal range. Ficken, 15 of 23 last year. We mentioned his ups and downs. We mentioned that he's missed a lot of would-be game winners. He's made several would-be or what turned out to be winning field goals as well. But he hits this one and hits 3 of 3 on the day. So it's going to be a 10-hour ride back for Penn State and 10 hours for Central Florida to lick their wounds. But for Sam Ficken, he's going to enjoy every minute of it. No headsets on the sidelines for Penn State, and James Franklin brought that up a number of times. In the NFL, they would have balanced that out by not allowing Central Florida to use their headsets, but that seemed to be a huge issue, and James Franklin brought that up halftime and postgame, but it's all good for Penn State with 4 tight ends. They're 4 deep at tight end. The best one there, Jesse James, who caught a number of passes as well. Penn State, again, couldn't run the football with Zach Zwinick and Bill Belton. They had 57 rushing yards on 28 carries. That, of course, includes sacks in college football statistics, so they ran it a little bit better than that. But the Penn State defense stood up to Central Florida. They only gave up 24 rushing yards, did Penn State, to Central Florida on 29 attempts. Okay, let's turn it over to the Central Florida side because this is still a quality football team. They came in as a 2-point favorite. They won the game in Happy Valley last year. Of course, won the Fiesta Bowl after surprising everyone and winning the America Athletic Conference over Louisville. They found a quarterback in this game. So the positive for Central Florida after the loss is that they found a quarterback in Justin Holman, who was supposed to be and the odds-on favorite to be the starting quarterback this year. He was Blake Bortles' primary backup, but he lost the job. He was beat out by DeNovo. Pete DeNovo was a surprise selection as the starting quarterback. And if you compare the two kids physically, there's no comparison. Holman's got the big frame. He looks the part. We saw the arm strength. He threw across his body a couple times. He's got a gun, or a strong arm, very solid strong arm, and he's mobile, and he can break tackles in the backfield and avoid sacks, and he can threaten the defense on the perimeter. Not blazing speed, but can threaten the defense. DeNovo, give him credit. He's getting just about everything he can out of the resources he has, but he's a smaller kid. He doesn't have a gun. He doesn't have an elite arm. He doesn't even have an average arm for a starting quarterback at this level. And DeNovo could not move this offense. 29 yards until he was pulled with 6.5 minutes left in the third quarter. 29 total yards of offense with 6.5 minutes left in the third quarter. Justin Coleman came in, generated 319 yards of offense in 21 minutes. So again, DeNovo, 29 yards in 39 minutes. Holman, 319 yards in 21 minutes. And he led the final drive, took Central Florida down the field about 75 yards for the touchdown. He rushed and passed for 3 touchdowns, scored the game winner, made some amazing throws during that drive, really showed poise for a kid who's not been the starting quarterback. In relief, hit that pass down the field to Josh Reese that would have been the game winner, the big 4th down play. Josh Reese made an outstanding catch over the cornerback and hauled it in to get him close down to like the 6 or 7 yard line. Then Central Florida took it in when Holman himself took it in for the game go-ahead touchdown, but that left Hackenberg with 1:13 and 3 timeouts, and he took it from there. Central Florida's Sean Moffitt, again, kicked some field goals. He hit 21 of 23. He's one of the best in the country last year. Jacoby Glenn with an interception off of Hackenberg. That was an exceptional play. He's a first-team freshman All-America last year and first-team American Athletic Conference. So, Penn State, what do they gain? Well, they've got an NFL quarterback in the future. They find Geno Lewis and DaeSean Hamilton and establish that rapport. These kids who had not played, in Hamilton's case last year, catches 11 for 165. And Lewis, who caught 21 and was a third or fourth option last year, catches 8 for 173. So the passing game in order for Penn State. The offensive line was not great, but it got better throughout the game, and the Penn State defense was rock solid most of the time. Strong performance out of Penn State. Central Florida's got better things coming as well, as they have, we believe, found a quarterback. We shall see. Hit 9 of 14 for 204 and 3 touchdowns total. Central Florida, Penn State, Nittany Lions pull it out, and even the series 1-1 going back to last season. So would love to hear your thoughts on Penn State, Central Florida. It was a great game to watch at 8:30 in the morning Eastern Time. And let's talk about it right here on Mark Rogers TV.